Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Namaste. In this session we are going to look at concept of health and well-being as described in the contemporary literature, and we will compare that with the yogic perspective. But before we move on to that, let us have a quick recap. So, in last 6 sessions we have discussed about why a course on managing self and how it is intricately connected with the managing career, why it is important. Then we looked at role of positive psychology and how some of the concepts of positive psychology are common to the yogic perspective, and in the last 2-3 sessions we looked at how positive psychology can be made complete with the confluence of yoga, because yoga not only talks about positive experience, positive subjective experience, positive relationships or positive institutions, but yoga also talks about holistic life goals, different pathways of achieving those life goals, positive behavior, positive characteristics in terms of Daivi Sampadas. We looked at positive experiences, we looked at how the dynamic nature, bivalent nature of the emotions are very well embraced in the yogic perspective. Yogic perspective talks about the positive events like yajnas or sanskar, these are the positive events, positive institutions, marriage and pathshala. We looked at 2 examples of the positive institutions as embraced, as explained in the yogic tradition, and we also talked about positive society. Naturally, for the positive society we need to have positive governance, and yogic perspective give a very clear idea about the ideals of good governance, which are essentially positive. So, we looked at these things, and now we are going to look at notion of well-being and happiness in the psychology, in the positive psychology and in yogic tradition. In order to have a complete perspective on well-being, I would like to bring your attention towards few examples. These are the examples taken from real life, and most of us must have seen or experienced at least one of these, and these will be helpful for us to understand the core definition and core notion of well-being and positive psychology. So, this is one caselet of Gopal. He is a 4th year engineering student. This year is vital for Gopal because the final examination is around the corner and the placement is going to take place. On the top, Gopal is also preparing for the several entrance exams. Gopal's mother is very supportive and takes care of Gopal's diet. So, Gopal is one of the lucky students who could complete, who is able to carry out his education being at home, being with his parents. But Gopal is a mischievous boy. He is fond of eating outside and quite often does that without notice of his mother. So, mother always asks Gopal, tell me what you wish to eat and I can prepare that for you at home. You need not to, you should not actually eat it outside, but Gopal, being like many other young students or young people in our country or around the world, he wants to, he loves to eat outside. So, Gopal is fond of eating food like burgers, noodles, lot of sugary chocolates, and mother naturally and rightfully term these as junk food. Gopal pays no heed to what his mother tells and assures her, saying, "Don't worry mom, I will I will be alright. Luck was not in favor of Gopal until the last examination, when he fell seriously fallen ill, and due to food poisoning, and all his effort go in vain. So, this is one case about the food. There is another case of Samuel. So, Samuel is a handsome, good looking, charming man in his 20s. He is pursuing masters in management after BCom honors. He has a girlfriend from college. He meets another girl during PG. So, he developed infatuation towards this new girl. He started flirting with her and she became friend to him. Samuel for time being stopped talking to his previous girlfriend. After a year passed, he started missing his previous girlfriend. She naturally had complained, the previous girlfriend naturally had complained and did not respond to his initial calls amicably, but then started responding after his pursual, assuming that Samuel is finally come back to her. Though after getting into a job which he found after which he got after MBA, Samuel met a charming colleague who looked interested in him. Instead of being upfront about committed status, Samuel started flirting with this new girl as well. So, this girl and he developed intimate relationship within few weeks. A close male friend of Samuel, Aftab, was the only one who was aware of all his 3 relationships. So, this friend asked the Samuel why he is hopping from one romantic relationship to another one. He may get into trouble. Samuel said to Aftab that, bro, if I am handsome, charming and sought after man, why should not I enjoy and have fun? Why not enjoy the variety in life? Over the years, Samuel had couple of other flings as well. His flamboyant image started hurting his reputation at work as well as in his society and community. When his girlfriend found out about his other relationships, and naturally they found him untrustworthy, they fought with him vehemently and threatened to take this issue with company HR. Meanwhile, she contacted his previous girlfriend of Samuel as well. So, this new lady at work, she was able to figure out about Samuel's other girlfriends. She was able to meet with one of them, and now Samuel is in very strange situation. He has lost trust of his girls he was intimate to, and reputation among his colleagues and friends, and the complaint had reached to HR and he does not know what will happen. Let us look at the third caselet. This caselet is about a character called Raja. Raja was very good student since his school days. He loved music and photography. He was also good at mathematics, and his cousin in his family used to be talked about as role model. We all know that every family has few people who are talked about as role models, and this cousin was considered as role model because he was a software engineer, he did MBA from good institution and joined a consulting firm from his campus. Raja also used to feel to be like him, because this cousin was praised by all the family members. Raja also joined a good engineering college after the school. He also worked in a telecom company after graduation. He also prepared for the CAT to enter the business school. He joined an IT firm in technical consulting role. For first year, he enjoyed his salary, perks and did not bother about any other thing. Gradually, he realized that he has a kind of disconnect with others at workplace. He did not enjoy office parties, was not excited about the next promotion or acquiring. He was also not very keen about acquiring highly valuable clients for his company, or he was not enjoying the next level of complex projects. What he used to look forward to was only Sunday trips of birding, the people who were birding ornithologists or who actually fond of birding. So, he used to enjoy his Sundays where he would go for the birding and natural photography. These were the only solace for him during a week. He actually dragged in similar kinds of job till he was in 30s. So, he left one job, joined another company, remain excited for few weeks or maybe months, and then again he his dislike about these kind of technical jobs surfaced. Most of his friends are not from the workplace, not from his profession, but from the birding group. With changing technology so fast, he is constantly stressed out for his performance, because if you do not enjoy, then you do not improve regularly. He cannot leave the job because he had already acquired loans to purchase a house. His lifestyle was such there which demanded that much earning and family, and over the years every morning he drags his feet to office, and once upon a time the kind of jobs and the kind of money he used to aspire for has these things became a kind of grudgery to him. So, if we look at these three cases, what is common in these three cases? The matters in these caselets were about food, sexual intimacy and social recognition. All three are otherwise considered important or rather synonymous to happiness. Individually, independently, food, sexual intimacy or social recognition are not bad things. So, all these cases are about these things only. But if we look at consciously, these three things which looked fun or which looked very attractive to begin with did not turn out to be so joyful as the time passed, and as our protagonist Gopal, Samuel and Raja actually indulge into these three much more than what they were supposed to do. So, if we look at these cases tell that lasting happiness and well-being is not only having enough of money, social recognition, social intimacy or food. Well-being seemed to be much more complicated issue than just having these things. So, that is why it is important to have a closer look to what actually well-being and happiness is. These cases deep down are asking about some fundamental questions of life. Those fundamental questions are: what is good life? What is a life worth living? What is the meaning of life? So, term happiness connotes well with all that is good. In this perspective, it is frequently used analogous to terms such as well-being and quality of life, and it signifies both individual as well as social welfare. So, in this session we will learn the difference between health and well-being. We will look at what, how and why of well-being studies. We will look at the Indian perspective of well-being and factors that enhance the well-being. How well-being affects my life, why we should bother about it. We should bother about well-being. This looks like a obvious thing, but it is important to articulate it, put it upfront, that everybody likes a happy person. Nobody likes to be a sad person or a person who is suffering and whose suffering is reflected in his behavior constantly. So, we have to pursue well-being because it results into better interaction and relationship with our family and friends. Well-being is also positively connected to employment situation. Well-being is also important at workplace. Relationship at workplace, responsibility you get at workplace, success you achieve at workplace. On all three aspects, well-being matters. Better interaction with the, so once we have better interaction with the local community, we have better interaction with the surrounding environment. So, in the upcoming slide we will look into the contribution of Ayurveda on the health and well-being, because that is very deeply connected with the yogic perspective. There are so many scholars, the great minds, almost all the great minds who delve into the most fundamental questions of life, they reflected on the nature and pursuit of happiness or well-being. So, Democritus, he defined individual's own satisfaction with life. That means it is very individual perspective, it is very person specific perspective. One thing can be a matter of happiness and well-being for someone, same thing cannot be the source of happiness and well-being for another person. Plato, the great philosopher, for him happiness is the greatest satisfaction by satisfying the most intense desire. So, most intense desires are reflection of our way of being. When these are satisfied, happiness occurs in our life. Aristotle talked about eudaimonia. We discussed about eudaimonia in the previous sessions. Basically, it relates to leading life with most valued virtues. So, this kind of happiness is very different from the kind of happiness we draw by enjoying good food or having very valuable and attractive clothing or having intimate sexual relationships. This happiness which we draw by pursuing virtues is called eudaimonic, and it is different from typical emotional happiness or what Aristotle called hedonic happiness. Epicurean also talked about the happiness. Their idea was not pursuing unnecessary things, enjoying what you have. So, some people connect it with the hedonistic happiness, but this is not exactly hedonic happiness. They talk about enjoying whatever you have at this moment. Stoicism is again a school of thought which was developed when the Greek civilization was enjoying the democracy. So, people used to reflect in the groups, there used to be debates, and one of the very important stream of the conversation during that time was Stoicism, which talks about, also very similar to what Aristotle talked about, virtuous road to happiness. So, then we know that first industrialization happened, then globalization happened, the market as a great force emerged into the society, and the market force defined happiness primarily in terms of the utility or in terms of the sense pleasure, which is very close to hedonistic pleasure or hedonistic happiness. We have reached to that level of development and reflection in the psychology that recognizes flourishing as the gold stone of well-being. Flourishing involves positive emotions, positive relationships, meaning and purpose, and also a sense of achievement. So, it is a concept associated with the happiness and a high level of well-being. It is a complete or maximum well-being coupled with optimal functioning. It is a holistic and broader representation of well-being comprising of intrapersonal as well as interpersonal dimensions. According to World Health Organization, health is a state of complete physical, mental, social well-being and not merely absence of diseases or infirmity. Health and well-being are interrelated terms. Well-being is more than just having good health. Well-being is a continuous process of being fulfilled and healthy in all aspects: physical, mental, social and spiritual. Please note that WHO recognized the importance of spiritual aspect as important as physical, mental and social aspect for well-being. Well-being encompasses all these aspects, and each of us strive toward becoming fully functional person. Fully functional person, if you want to read more about it, please read the work of Carl Rogers, and humanistic psychologists talked about the fully functional personality. Essentially, it means my ability to be what I can be, and human beings are always work in progress. They can keep achieving new levels of excellence, new level of autonomy, new level of mastery. So, it is being a fully functional person who is open to experience, has purpose in life, has gained environmental mastery and has positive relationship and leads an increasingly existential life. So, you can look at health and well-being are about all aspect of life. These are not only related to a aspect like good food or good clothing or some limited ways. So, the fundamental questions raised in the well-being literature are related to identity, that is who am I, related to functionality and my role in the larger organization and larger society. Relationship, so how are my relationships, how am I and when I am in my most productive state, and with all this how satisfied I am. These are the fundamental questions pursued in the well-being literature. What we can conclude thus far is that human being to function well, it requires the combination of one's cognitive function, stable emotional state and good physiology. Dodge and his colleague have given a beautiful perspective about well-being. They looked at well-being as a matter of balance. That is a balance point between individuals' resources, pool and challenges. So, at one level we have resources, intrinsic resources of course, which are psychological resources, social resources and we also have physical resources, money or technical know-how or my connections, all that. If we look at our life and the life challenges, they are also at three levels: psychological challenges, social challenges and physical challenges. Am I able to do what I wish to do? Am I able to build the kind of relationship I wish to have? Am I able to carry out with harmony within? These are the basic things about physical, social and psychological challenges. So, at one hand we have challenges, on other hand we have resources. We can say that well-being is attained when resources and challenges are balanced out. This seesaw represents the drive of individual to return to a set point for well-being as well as individual's need for equilibrium or homeostasis. So, a state of well-being is such a situation where a person has the stability on various aspects and various levels of his existence. Well-being has philosophical connotation, it is the continuous process. So, like if you look at the process of balance, we are constantly searching a balance. It is a dynamic process, every day I have to do something to balance my resources and challenges. So, that is why it is called continuous process and that is reflected in all aspects of everyday life. It is more than health and it is related to overall mind, body, soul interplay. So, this must be understood before we go further and talk about how we can attain that well-being. If we look at yogic perspective, based on the previous sessions, we can conclude that individual perspective of well-being is untenable in the yogic perspective. That means, one individual cannot attain the well-being, individual well-being is always connected with his relationship or her relationships. So, my individual situation is intricately connected with the social situation, and yogic perspective talks about systemic perspective of reality, integrative perspective of reality and celebration of diversity. These three things make yogic perspective distinct from the positive psychological perspective. If I can remind you about this perspective, we discussed about systemic perspective of reality, not looking individual as a separate entity. Individuals form the family, family in turn form society, and society in turn form community or countries. So, there is no question about the struggle between person or family or individual and society, etc. So, we need to look at the integral perspective. That is the first condition about the yogic perspective of well-being. Second aspect of yogic perspective of well-being is that it talks about an integrative view. That means objective aspect of life and so called subjective aspect of life are connected. How? We talked about four basic life objectives: artha, dharma, kam and moksha. Dharma is the invisible order, it is more subjective. Moksha certainly very subjective, very individual experience, but kam, consumption, that is an objective aspect, and artha, that is even more objective aspect, measurable aspect. All these four have to be balanced, and all this, both these objective aspect and subjective aspect actually influence each other. We also talked about Panchakosha. In the Panchakosha, Annamaya Kosh is very physical, much more objective than logic, rationality level, which is reflected in the Vijnanamaya Kosh. So, our physical body, mental body, pranic body, which is even more subjective, and that is considered to be connecting subjective and objective. That which is connecting Manomaya Kosh, Vijnanamaya Kosh with Annamaya Kosh is pranic body, Pranamaya Kosh. If we look at these two frameworks, we can understand that Indian perspective or yogic perspective looks at well-being as a integration of so called objective and subjective aspects. It does not distinguish between the two. In fact, it is so integrated that even in the conceptualization of the positive society and governance, we looked at artha, rajya, governance, age, knowledge and sense control. All these are considered to be connected with each other. If we look at the Sankhya perspective, we will have detailed discussion on the Sankhya perspective. This beautifully enumerates how the most subjective fundamental energy or fundamental intelligence of the existence became more and more objective in the form of Tanamatras, then in the form of senses, in the form of the gunas and in the form of the Panchatattvas. So, subjective objective connect is well recognized, embraced, appreciated and pursued in the yogic perspective. And last but not the least, there is a great respect for the diversity. Individuals are diverse, different animals are diverse, even two cells of same plant of the same leaf are diverse, they are never very similar, exactly similar to each other. So, because of that, different individuals develop different nature called Prakriti that can be classified, but that combination of the different components can be unique in everybody. Different individuals can also have different ways of attaining spiritual well-being. They will have a different emotional makeup, they can have a different type of body. So, highest personalized assessment and treatment has to be done in the yogic perspective, and that is carried forward in the Ayurvedic perspective as well. So, there is a deep respect towards the diversity at all levels in the yogic tradition. So, these are the things which make yogic perspective distinct from the positive psychological perspective about defining well-being and pursuit of well-being. Ayurveda gives a very comprehensive definition of well-being from the individual perspective. It is given in the individual perspective, but if you reflect it closely, you can see that it is anchored at the collective systemic perspective as well. So what it says, samadosha samagnischa samadhatu malakriya prasannatmendriya manah swasthya ityabhidiyate. What is considered to be swasthya? Swasthya ityabhidiyate. This is called swasthya, this is called health, this is called well-being. When Panch Tattvas make constitution, they result into some gunas and some doshas. What are the gunas? Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic, these are the gunas, and Vat, Pitta, Kapha, these are doshas. So, when all these doshas, Vat, Pitta, Kapha, and we will discuss these things in the next session, when these doshas are equanimous, they are in balance. Samagnischa, there are different forms of energy which is called Agni. We have different forms of energy, and when different forms of energies are in equilibrium and in harmony, that is the another condition. Some dhatu, dhatu are the basic constituents. Majja means bone marrow or bone or muscles, these are some of the dhatus. There are 7 dhatus, we will discuss about it later. So, when doshas, agnis, dhatu, these are in balance with each other. Malakriya, meaning the process of excretion, and excretion is not only done through the intestine, it is done through the cell at the cellular level as well, it is done at the skin level, it is done through many other excretion of the mucus from different parts of the body like eyes or ears. When these things are, when the excretion process is also going on as per the balance and as per the harmony with the other things, plus prasanendriya mana, when there is a sense of happiness, when the mind is fresh and full of bliss, that is the definition of swasthya. And why it is called swasthya? Swasthya meaning swa is sthit, swa means self, sthit means anchored. When I am enjoying within, when I am anchored in myself, then only I can enjoy within and without. You must have noticed, if you are in harmony within, then only you can enjoy your relationship outside. When you are in harmony within, on balance within, then only you enjoy going out, enjoying different places or meeting people. So, swasthya is a core, swasthya is an indicator that when I am anchored, and that anchoring is possible in these conditions which I just explained, that is the state of well-being according to the Indian tradition, according to the Ayurvedic tradition. So, in the normal state of equilibrium, they support the body, and when vitiated, they produce the disease. We are talking about doshas. So, doshas play important role in pathogenesis, diagnosis and treatment of the disease. Vat, Pitta, Kapha, these are the doshas as I mentioned. So, let us look at these components in more detail. In the normal state of equilibrium, doshas support the body, and when these are vitiated, they produce disease. These are called doshas because whenever there is a contamination, it is reflected in the doshas first. So, kapha, prakriti kapha doshas or vata dosh or pitta dosh. Pitta dosh is related to the problem in digestion. Vata dosh is reflected in our ability to concentrate or the joint pains. Kapha dosh is reflected in the kaphas, in the undue mucus excretion from the in the nasopharyngeal area. So, doshas are the first thing to get disturbed. So, they play a very important role in pathogenesis and diagnosis as well as treatment and disease management. Man also moves from sattvic to rajasic or rajasic to tamasic. Rajasic is related to activity and tamas is related to inertness. Raj and tam, when they are properly balanced with activity, this state is called sattva. So, disturbance in these aspect of gunas result into lack of health or well-being. Dhatus in Ayurveda are correlated with the body tissues. For easy understanding, we can say these are the basic 7 building blocks of the physical body, and they are called Rasa, Rakta, Mans, Medh, Ashti, Majja. Let us look at doshas. The entire physiology and pathology in Ayurveda depend upon the status of 3 fundamental functional units in Sharir. What are the 3 fundamental units in Sharir? Doshas, Dhatus, Malas. These units or bioenergies, they control all functioning of body. So, among these 3 units, doshas are always first to get disturbed by various activities. If you have a change in the dietary factor, there is a fluctuation in season, time during the day, and my engagement with the work, my dincharya, which is my daily routine, or ritucharya, that is my seasonal routine, doshas are disturbed. Doshas are that which get disturbed first because of my diet or my dincharya or routine. There are 3 types of doshas. First is Vata dosh. Vat is derived from word Va, that means gati. So, anything related to the movement is related to Vata dosh. There are some physiological, functional and physical trait associated with Vata dosh, and there are some traits and psychological traits which are related to Vata dosh. Those who have taken the NPTEL course, they must have received a link about assessment of their doshas. So, by taking that assessment, which is developed by David Frawley, the great scholar, by looking at their assessment, they can understand whether they have more of Vata dosh, Pitta dosh or Kapha dosh. So, let us talk about the Vata dosh. Vata dosh is concerned with mode of movement within the body and therefore governs nerve impulses, circulation, respiration and elimination. This is responsible for maintaining sensory, emotional and mental harmony, and it facilitates mental adaptability and comprehension. So, if there is a Vata dosh, people will find it difficult to concentrate on one topic. Classically, people with the prominent Vata dosh have a thin body, low body weight and low bone structure. These are the physiological aspect. There are some psychological traits as well associated with Vata dosh. These people having more prominent Vata dosh are more creative, enthusiastic, fast and responsive people. They have a special drive to achieve goals in life. So, individual with the Vata constitution is characterized by short memory, impulsive, they are shy, sensitive, and these things also make them little more distracted in comparison to other doshas from one subject to another. So, these are the general characteristic of Vata dosh. Pitta dosha and the word Pitta is derived from the root tapa, which means heat. So, this dosha is responsible for digestion, which is pachan, and parinaman, which is metabolism and digestion. So, Pitta governs the process of transformation or metabolism by regulating digestion, absorption, assimilation, temperature associated with that, skin coloration and luster of eyes. Pitta regulates the digestion on mental and spiritual level as well. That is, our capacity to digest impression, emotions, ideas, that also come from the Pitta. So, dosha in the in the common term is considered as problems or doshas are considered as drawbacks. No, in the Ayurveda dosha are not considered as drawback, these are the basic constituents. These are called dosha because they are the first to show the contamination at physiological and psychological level, but they themselves are not the problems, they themselves are not the errors or drawbacks. These are there in everybody, not only in everybody, all the forms of being. So, medium or athletic build is the characteristic of the people having high vata dosh, and they are generally having medium height and delicate frame. There are some psychological characteristics associated with the people having more prominent vata dosh or vata prakriti, that is intelligence, courage and vitality. They are like, they come across as full of energy, courageous people, intelligent people who want to go to the depth of the subject, or the people in whom vata dosh is more prominent, they will have multiple interest from one topic to another topic, they can comfortably keep hopping. But pitta dosh result into capability of focusing on one thing, focusing on one topic and go in depth into it. So, that is the characteristic given by the pitta dosha. Psychologically, pitta endangers anger, hate, jealousy, these are also the side effects of the vata dosh. So, people having vata dosh are supposed to reflect these characteristics, these psychological characteristics also more often. Kapha dosha is a reflection of the bioenergy that is responsible for maintaining the proper water balance, hydration and moisture in our bodies. So, this is responsible for growth, adding structure and governs the lubrication of the body to offer protection and directly influencing the emotions. This dosha is concerned with emotions and it endows with love, caring, devotion, faith, which assist in maintaining internal harmony along with the unity with others. A well developed body with a tendency to gain weight is the reflection of kapha dosha. So, people with the high and more prominent kapha dosha, they show the characteristic of steadiness, calmness, being compassionate, and they are psychologically endanger the emotion of attachment, greed and envy. So, you see there are some physiological characteristics associated with the doshas and there are psychological characteristics also associated with doshas. Those who are registered through NPTEL in this course, they must have received an assessment questionnaire to look at what is their prominent prakriti and vikriti. After dosha, look at what is agni. So, sama dosha, samagnischa. So, we talked about doshas. In the personality, vata, pitta, kapha must be in balance, that is the first reflection of well-being. Second condition of well-being is sama agni, that has a common root in Sanskrit called agni. So, agni means that which ignites, which is fire. In Kenopanishad, Agni reveals his identity as the heat energy and ever burning flame of the conscious force in matter that makes up the entire world. Satpat Brahman, it proclaims Agni as the wisdom or discriminating power. In the yogic and Ayurvedic perspective, Agni is understood to be awareness, governor, nutrition and intelligence. What it means? Samagni means first thing is awareness, not only the mental awareness, each cell is the center of awareness. That awareness is governed by Agni. Each cell is conscious in itself as well, we all know that. These cells form the organs and systems. So, this is a system, the body is like a system. And like any system, it is made up of a smaller system and part of the bigger system. So, at the basic level of awareness, Agni is the one which governs the process of that. So, governor, it is a governor of digestion, assimilation, transformation of matter into energy. Agni also governs the structural and functional activities of all cells and tissues. So, it is a intelligence, it is a different kind of intelligence which governs or regulates the system at all levels. It is also related to nutrition of all body tissues. It is a neutralization of toxin also comes in its category. So, and the assimilation is important and neutralization of the toxins is also important. Both of these are governed by Agni, and as we have mentioned, it is a reflection of intelligence. It is not only mental intelligence, it is a cellular intelligence and cellular selectivity and choice, and that is what very famous Ayurvedic teacher and researcher Dr. Vasant Lad ji, very senior teacher, he has explained these characteristics of Agni. There are different types of Agnis: Jatharagni, Bhutagni and Dhatwagni. Jatharagni is related to stomach and duodenum, and naturally it is more related to our digestion. Bhutagni are 5 in number. So, 5 Agni from 5 basic elements. Bhutagni transform the substrates into such form that can be assimilated at the tissue level. Dhatwagni are the 7 Agnis, they represent one in each of the 7 dhatus. So, there are 7 dhatus, basic constituents, the physical constituents of the body, and a different type of Agni is connected to those 7 dhatus. So, what are dhatus? Dhatus, the word come from dha, which means to hold. So, dhatus are the basic building blocks of the physical body, and these are 7 in numbers. First is rasa, that is roughly correlate with lymph and plasma fluid. Second is rakta, that is dhatu in liquid state, and that is called prana or life. Mans is the dhatu in more solid state, which performs the function of covering the body and protecting from external environmental conditions. That is the third dhatu. Fourth dhatu is called med. Med is the semi solid state. So, term med refers to fat, and this dhatu can be roughly correlated with the fatty tissue of the body. Asthi is solid tissue, that is which forms the basic function of holding the entire body, the structure, and performing various movements. Majja is in the core of the bones. It is commonly correlated with the bone marrow and nervous tissues in the body. And Shukra, that is the final, the most refined dhatu, that means bright, pure and radiant. Shukra means bright, pure and radiant, and this is commonly used term to describe male and female, so male semen and female egg. These are the 7 type of dhatus. So, what Ayurvedic perspective says, and which is prescribed in the yogic perspective as well, that samadosha, samagnischa, samadhatu, these 3 things which we looked at have to be in balance with each other. Then comes mal. The term mal is derived from the root word in Sanskrit which denotes cleansing, purifying activity. Mrajyate shodhyate iti, that means the one that cleanses or purifies by carrying and eliminating waste, filth, dirt or debris. That is mala. Then comes manas. It is, so if you look at the definition of well-being in Ayurveda, looks at physical aspect, which is dhatu, it looks at malas, this which is excretion, it looks at psychophysiological aspect like gun and doshas, as well as it looks at pranic aspect which is agni. So, samadosha, which is more psychophysiological aspect, agni which is more like a pranic aspect, and Dhatu, which is a constituent, the basic core building block, that aspect, these are predominantly centered on the physiological aspect. And then comes the manas, which is a reflection of the manomaya kosh and vijnanamaya kosh here in the Ayurvedic perspective, that says that manas along with sharir and atma form the three pillar of individual life. Atindriyam punarmana sattva sangyakam teja चेता इत्याहुर एक तदार्थ संपद्यात चेष्टम चेष्टात प्रत्यभूत भूतम इंद्रियाणाम. So Charak Samhita describes the constituent of the body. So the mind transcends the sense organ. That's what is the claim of Charak Samhita, and modern science is also accepting that, and many research studies are indicating that, if not accepting that. We will be talking about these aspects in the later sessions. It is also termed as sattva, while some others call it as chetas. Its action is dependent on its objects and accomplishment of the self. It is responsible for the actions of the sense organ. That is the definition of manas given in the Charak Samhita. So you see, it is recognized to be connected with the physical body, but it has its distinct role in the form of enjoyer of the senses. So senses follow the direction of manas, and that is its actions are dependent on its object, which is to which it is connected to, and accomplishment of the self. So Atman, which is the deeper than manas, that governs the man, but man operates in connection with the external objects. So allegory given in the Katha Upanishad or Kathopanishad beautifully explains this aspect of self, and you can see the definition of health given in Ayurveda is in coherence with the concept of self given in Upanishad. What it says, Atmanam rathitam vidhi shariram rathamevatu. Vidhi means know this. Know the Atman as the consciousness, as the owner of the chariot. Shariram rathamevatu, and consider body as the rath, as the chariot. Buddhim tu sarathim, the charioteer is the buddhi, the sarathi. Manah pragrahamevacha, manas, which we just talked about, is the kind of rein which controls the senses. So the horses are reflection of senses, manas is the reflection of rein, buddhi is the charioteer who is holding the rein and controlling the horses, and Atman, the sense, the consciousness, the self, that is the owner, and that is who gives give all the direction to the buddhi and then manas. That is the reflection of the human self given in the Kathopanishad. So rider Atman is the innermost self, that is the true self, that is a pure consciousness. Chariot is the physical body, horses are the indriyas or sense forces, these are the conscious element of the mind body complex. Driver is the buddhi, the reason, the intellect, that holds the rein, the part of the mind body complex that controls voluntary action, the deliberative, rational, decision making part of the mind or soul, that is the driver. And rein, the manas, is the cognitive ability other than reason which control the senses. That is the notion of self. So to be at the optimum level of well-being, it is not only to have strong senses, it is important to have senses which are under the control of the strong manas. Manas cannot control the senses without strong buddhi, and buddhi will go into the direction set by Atman or consciousness. and that completes the definition of well-being in the yogic perspective. Prasannatmendriya manah, individual having a strong mind which is not agitated with in adversity, one who is free from desire and who is devoid of attachment, fear and anger. That is the one sign of the highest possible well-being. Second, the person who is without selfish motive, who not overjoyed in the positive situation and disgust not in the adverse condition, and maintains a equanimous state and have a good mental well-being. On the contrary, a person who obtains possessions of pleasure which are beyond the ability and does not feel blessed with the things that is already with him suffer from mental sickness. So, this is beautifully explained by Guru Prasad ji in his book Concept of Health in Ayurveda. Health, well-being, happiness are beautifully covered in the Ayurvedic tradition, which are prescribed and which are accepted as it is in the yogic tradition as well. They talk about the bodily balance, balance of mind and a strong sense of identity, sense of self, which is not seeking only outside pleasures, which is enjoying within, and that is why it is devoid of attachment, fear and anger. So, this completes the definition of well-being. We need to reflect on what are my scores on Vata Pitta Kapha Prakriti questionnaire. I mentioned that questionnaire is sent to the people who are registered for the NPTEL course. That tells us how we can regain our balance, how we can maintain our balance. This questionnaire not only tells what kind of food you should avoid and eat, it also tells what kind of the mental agitations you are naturally subjected to, and once we are aware of it, we can control it, we can direct these mental tendency towards the productive goals. Because the disease occurs from three process: agantava, sharira, manasa, swabhavavikashcheti. Disease developed through disturbance in level of doshas, malas, and sometime it occurs by nature, which we call the innate. So, there are very few innate diseases. Most of the diseases are either agantava, means because of the external infections, sharira, when body is not functioning properly, manasa, when the mind is not functioning properly, mind is not controlled, regulated properly. If we look at our current status, most of the diseases apparent in the society are because of sharira and manasa. That is why we call it psychosomatic diseases, what we call the lifestyle diseases. These lifestyle diseases are the most prominent diseases in the current times, and these were well recognized in the Charak Samhita.